You know what I noticed yesterday, just for shits and giggles, while Kamala Harris and Joe Biden were speaking, commemorating the filthy, insidious attack on this country led by Donald Trump a year ago. While they were speaking yesterday, I was watching on MSNBC, and I had to flip over to Fox just to see if they were even covering it. Well, they were. And I thought, well, my God, they're covering this? So when Biden and Harris had finished their speeches, I went back to Fox to see what the post commemorative talk would be by these scum, these filthy Nazi scum at Fox, what they'd be talking about. Well, at one point yesterday afternoon, Adam Kinzinger was on CNN, and he was recounting what he was doing a year earlier when the Capitol was attacked. And at the same time, MSNBC was reporting on the Justice Department probe into what led up to the riot. But on Fox, on the Fox propaganda Christian Nazi sewer, there was something else entirely. They were airing a video of a panting dog. Or no, it was a painting dog. I'm reading it wrong. To illustrate a discussion about people maxing out on screen time. A painting dog. As an example of, whoever put this together or was watching this have way too much time on their hand, while the whole fucking network is doing just that. That was one of the many televised moments that appeared on the Fox sewer as the other networks were reporting on the commemorative efforts. And the painting dog video that the Fox sewer was running was an illustration of how Christian fascist media refuses to acknowledge the severity of what happened last year. Pretty incredible. David Bauder, writing at the Associated Press, has this. He writes, the anniversary was the top story on the morning news shows. Huddled against the cold, CNN New Day hosts John Berman and Brianna Keeler worked from an outdoor location overlooking the Capitol. While the events from a year earlier dominated discussion on MSNBC's Morning Joe. Yet between 6:30 and 9 a.m., now remember the Biden or Kamala Harris's speech began at 9. Between 6:30 and 9 on the Fox sewer, on the Fox and Friends toilet show, the anniversary of this insurrection was mentioned twice. Once in a news headline package and another as an aside by one of the Nazi hosts, Brian Kilmeade, who was trying to suggest that Biden wanted to direct attention to topics that were less damaging to him, whatever the fuck that means. Brian Kilmeade is the one who looks like he just was released from a mental institution. If you look at that Fox and Friends screen in the morning, if you have the courage to do it, he's not the dark-haired one. The dark-haired one is out of his fucking mind completely. But Brian Kilmeade, I swear to God, he looks like somebody who just wandered out of an institution. It's incredible. So between 6:30 and 9, these scum suckers on Fox were interviewing Lara Trump, the one that's married to the walking cat piss boy, Eric Jr., about how much time Joe Biden spent in Delaware. There you go. And they also spoke to a nurse fired for not being vaccinated against COVID-19. They also reported on the so-called credibility crisis at the CDC. They brought on a former Marine who had criticized Biden's Afghanistan pullout. They gave Florida Governor the prick Nazi gangster Ron DeSantis time to step up and announce distribution of COVID test kits. And that they featured a commentator on the sewer named Charles Payne, who spent whatever amount of time it was, 2 or 3 minutes with his commentary, saying that, quote, every time Biden opens his mouth, he insults the American people, end quote. Can you imagine the chaos that exists inside the minds of the assholes who watch the Fox sewer? I mean, what kind of thought patterns must they have? What do they think when they leave their hovels? You know, when they leave their house or they get in their car? They're going someplace. What the hell do they think about? And then, of course, Biden's speech was covered when he, if you remember, we talked about this yesterday, and you probably saw it, he delivered a particularly forceful critique of Trump. And the whole thing was covered live on the largest broadcasting cable news networks. Obviously, everybody carried it, including the Fox toilet. Anyway, after the speech, David Muir on ABC, their anchor, said, quote, you could clearly hear the passion in his voice as he was telling the American people what's at stake. Savannah Guthrie over on NBC said the attack was on Trump was, quote, pretty remarkable. CNN analyst Gloria Borger said, quote, I believe when we look back at Joe Biden's tenure as president, that may well become the strongest speech he has ever given. It was from the heart, end quote. CNN's Laura Coates ridiculed Trump for a statement that said Biden, quote, used my name today to try to further divide America, when Biden pointedly didn't name him. Coates said regarding Trump, quote, all he heard during the entire speech was, did somebody say my name? Yeah. And the immediate reaction from the Fox sewer, Dana Too Much Cappuccino Perino, remember her? She used to be spokesman for the war criminal George W. Bush towards the end of the war criminal's presidency. Perino, the one that talks at 78 RPMs while the rest of the world is going around at 45 RPMs, her. She said, Too Much Cappuccino Perino said the speech was divisive and a missed opportunity, she said. Perino said, quote, we got a lot of challenges that we're dealing with. You could have talked about the strength of our system. You bitch, you goddamn bitch, you are among the people trying to destroy the system. This is what gets me crazed about these fascist Christians. Now, the 1 year commemoration of what these filthy scum did in this country and the support they got from the Fox sewer and the Fox anchors and the Fox News people and the Fox everybody, it brings up these renewed questions about the actions of some of the top scum-sucking personalities on the Fox sewer on the day of the insurrection. As you know by now, the Select Committee wants to talk with Sean Hannity. Oh, my God, I just can't believe it. After texts were released by Trump's former chief of staff showing Sean Hannity privately advising Trump before, during, and after the assault. Hannity, the stupidest fuck ever to operate in talk radio? No, seriously. I mean, he really is. I know. I worked in this here in Atlanta with him. He is a total blank. So he's advising, which shows you the intellectual level of Donald Trump. Oh, my God. And during the attack, a couple other Fox sewer dwellers, the blonde bitch Laura Ingraham and the aforementioned half-wit Brian Kilmeade, also reached out to Trump's chief of staff during the attack. Jesus. And then other Christian fascist networks were also eager yesterday to downplay what was the significance of yesterday. As AP reports on Newsmax, some asshole named Tom Basile said that Biden believes that a country is defined in its worst moments. He said, this asshole on Newsmax says Biden sees everyone involved in the attack as extremists and terrorists. Oh, boy, was that a mistake, right? Half-wit? Extremist? Attacking the Capitol, trying to kill people? What's extreme about that? In your little world there, Tom Basile, over there on Newsmax. And a terrorist screaming and threatening to hang the Vice President of the United States? Oh, what's terroristic about that? And then, shortly after that garbage came flying out of the mouths of this asshole Tom Basile, Newsmax brought on Representative Andy Biggs, a Christian fascist who is also a member of Congress. And Andy Biggs wanted to complain about the treatment of people being punished as criminals for their involvement in the riot. He wanted to complain about it. Well, I'll tell you what, Andy Biggs and the rest of you fucks, just be glad that Mike Malloy was not the judge at some of these trials, because federal guidelines be damned. Some of these people would be hanged for treason. I'm serious. I really am. At least I'd sentence them to hanging. I would. So all day yesterday, the differing priorities of these various networks and cable channels were reflected in the amount of time that the commemoration and the speeches by members of Congress, if you remember some of the speeches, they were limited. They were just shocking. I mean, I learned things yesterday listening to members of Congress who were caught inside the Capitol building as these Christian nutfucks went rampaging around down the halls and in the bathrooms and in people's offices. And I listened to some of these members of Congress describe their terror and their fear and their revulsion and not knowing what the hell was happening. CNN and MSNBC, for example, spent a lot of time airing those speeches about what they were experiencing while they were under siege. Fox ignored it all. The Fox sewer ignored it all. And I don't know. The top headlines at the Breitbart sewer were, quote, Democrat Day of Hysteria. Kamala unhinged. Dividing Biden blames Trump. And the lead story on redstate.com, another fascist outfit, another filthy Nazi outfit. The headline was, quote, the twisted morality of those who obsess over January 6th. Jesus Christ. I mean, it should give us all an idea of what we're up against. And we are up against it. We are up against these fascist, Christian, psychotic son of a bitches. And the time will come. It will. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcast. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com, and never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.